Things we thought were important in Native Son were his lack of a male father figure. Um, they were poor. They were in the south side of Chicago. There was segregation because it was the 1930s. He was a black young man. He got empathy from Jan and his attorney and like all the communists. There was racism. His killing Mary was important, and his rape and murder of Bessie, and the isolation that he felt from white society and black society.
None of boys, there's a few themes that we identified, like isolation, indecisiveness, depression, pressure from mother, hopelessness, racism, social blindness of Ishio's mom, acceptance of father, mother in control, acceptance plus resistance of culture, resentment, and dysfunctional family.
A Reason in the Sun. It was in the early 1900s where black people faced a lot of racism and segregation. They were really poor, and they faced hopelessness, and they had to empower themselves. The mother, she had unconditional love for all her children, and Ruth had a lot of tenderness too, and they had to overcome their poverty and face maturity by understanding what was going on and learn how to overcome it. Beneath her, she had a lot of feminism, and she was fighting assimilation, and she was finding her roots with her new, pursuer? Suitor?
Yeah.
Suitor. Yeah. And the mother, they took her strength and her love for granted, but they had to understand that she was doing everything that she could do to give them a better life. And they had a lack of faith towards the middle of the play, but they soon they renewed their faith. And Walter was really naive for thinking that his liquor business was going to take over, but that didn't happen. So he stole the money, but he had to find maturity and know that what he did was wrong. And that's it.
So the first book is Native Son, written by Richard Wright. The setting of the book is 1930s Southside Chicago. The main character, Bigger Thomas, he struggles with his identity and his ability to support his family, well, his inability to support his family. Bigger and his friends, one of the contrasting things about Bigger is that him and his friends are known to steal from African Americans, but they won't steal from whites because they actually feel that it's a lot more dangerous and a lot more risky. Some common themes in Native Son are racism, segregation, poverty, as well as identity crisis. Bigger accidentally, the main sort of thing that happens in Native Son, sort of the climax, is that Bigger accidentally kills Mary Dalton, but then convinces himself that the murder was pretty much destined to happen. The murders of Mary Dalton, as well as he ends up murdering his girlfriend Bessie, gave Bigger a sense of awareness. And also one other thing that we sort of missed with that is communism. Now moving on to the second book, No No Boy by John Okada. The setting of this book is Seattle, Washington during World War II. Yet again, Ichiro struggled with his identity of being Japanese American. He's pretty much feel like he's caught between America and Japan. Next, a big part of the book is that he resented his mother because of her ideals and her beliefs as a Japanese woman. She was pretty much in denial about American and her sons becoming Americanized. The two people that he trusted, the only two people actually that Ichiro trusted were Kenji and Emi because they didn't judge him. Taro, his brother, he actually joined the army in spite of his mother's ideals. At 18, he quickly joined the army because he felt that he was doing what his brother didn't do as an American citizen. Yet again, his mother was the man of the house. That was one thing that we sort of felt was pretty much important. His mother was the man of the house, and his father was pretty much laid back. He was pretty much drunk most of the time. And at the end of the book, we really seen that Ichiro resented and he pretty much hated his mother, and we've seen this through her funeral where he showed not an ounce of remorse. And on to the third book.
The next book, A Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry, it was taking place in in Chicago in the 1950s. It was basically about a poor family that wanted to live the American dream. The main characters, Walter, Mama, Ruth, and Benita. We noticed that in all three of the books, the main characters pretty much struggled with an identity crisis. Walter, he was supposed to be the man of the house, but he wasn't like his father. He wasn't able to provide for his family, and he worked as a driver. Mama gets a check for $10,000, but the family split over what to do with the check. Benita wants to use it for school, and Walter wants to invest in a liquor store, but Mama ends up buying a house with the money and leaves the rest for Walter and Benita. The new house that she buys in Clybourne Park, they weren't welcomed in that neighborhood, and they were actually offered money to move out of that area. The money that Walter invested in the liquor store, his business partner actually left with the money, so the family's torn apart about that. And for the first time, you see Mama really feel some type of way about Walter, and she says he's not the man that his father was. But once he stands up to Mr. Linder and saying that they're not gonna move out of the area, they're actually gonna move to Clybourne Park, Mama seems very proud of her son. That's it.
Go.
Overall, for all the books, I wanted to make a point about how each time period was important for each book. I'll start off with Native Son. Native Son, the main character was Bigger Thomas, and he suffered from an identity crisis. He lived in a poor ghetto society in Southside Chicago. As a black man, he suffered from segregation. We wanted to talk about the self-destruction of Bigger because he felt that he was below and shackled by the white man. It caused half of his own self-destruction. Also, society's impact on the behavior of its people because the society was segregated based on the white man. They kind of turned on each other back when Bigger got arrested. The two black men were in a dispute about what they would do. One who was upset about it because he made the white man look lower on the black man than they already did, and one that would help him. Also, the fact that Bigger only had one parent, he had no father figure, no positive role models, and he had to deal with white supremacy, and he felt isolated from his own people. Bigger felt he couldn't trust white people because they were the ones to put him down. And Bigger let fear control his actions and his decisions, basically impacting, meaning when he killed Mary and when he was raping and killing Betsy. Moving on to No No Boy. Oh, no. In No No Boy, basically, Ichiro suffered from an identity crisis. Also, he didn't know himself because he acted based on what other people felt about him, and his family had a major impact on his life because he chose not to fight in the war. He regretted that. He regretted his mother. He resented his mother, and that caused his own self-destruction because he had to deal with the viewpoint of society because they didn't like the fact that he didn't go to war because he was a traitor of the enemy, which is the Japanese, and he had to deal with his own inner battles because he was a Japanese American, so he was caught in between those two worlds. In A Raisin in the Sun, again, they suffered from segregation because of the time period. They were poor, living in the ghetto of Chicago, and they suffered from white supremacy. Walter's only focus was to make money and to live like the white man that he chauffeured around instead of focusing on his family. Benita struggled in trying to identify herself in her African roots while still trying not to completely assimilate to the white people around her. It was important for the family to move from the ghetto to Clybourne Park, even though they weren't welcome, because it was important to their mother that they be a black family that owns their own home.